Hey guys, der Leichte Bäcker here, and today we are gonna doing things a little bit different. This video will be in English, but don't you worry, the next video will be in German again. However, let's get back to the topic. Today we are gonna doing a simple white bread in the pan. And here's all you're gonna need for it. That is obviously a pan with lid. That's very important so that we can cover the dough and we have some heat from the top. A bowl where the dough can rise in, of course also with a lid. A wire rack where the bread can cool down on. Strong bread flour, or in German Weizenmehl Typ 550. Water, salt, yeast and a scale. Although you could also do it without a scale if you have the feeling for it. But we need it here so that we can precisely measure the amounts. And of course a stove where we can make the bread on. Let's get started. At first we take 400 grams of strong bread flour. Then we take 8 grams of salt, which represents 2%. Then 280 milliliters of water, which is around 70%. And 16 grams of fresh yeast, which represent 4%. And don't get too hung over with fresh versus dry yeast, just use the one you have available. There's not much of a difference about it. Only keep in mind if you use dried yeast, you need a half to a third of the amount of fresh yeast. And that's pretty much about it. And now we just mix everything till it all comes roughly together. And that's it for our no knead and no effort bread. Now we just cover the bowl and we let the dough rest for around 2 hours. But it always depends on your room temperature. So don't be afraid to get back to your dough a little earlier or give it a bit more time in case the dough hasn't doubled in size yet. See ya in 2 hours. 2 hours later, let's take a look at our dough and how nice and bubbly and active our dough looks now. We can also see here that the dough is convex, which means that we didn't overproof our bread and we came in the right moment. If this isn't the case for you, don't worry, just catch it a little earlier next time. Everywhere in the dough you can see now smaller and bigger bubbles. And all this without any kneading from us. All the hard work was done by the gluten. Now we are doing some stretch and fold with the dough. As a little hint, just wet your hands. This way the dough won't stick as much, hence it's way easier to handle the dough. We take the dough at the side, stretch it and fold it back in the middle. And this process we repeat for the whole dough, until we have a nice firm dough. If you feel the dough start sticking again, just pause for a moment and wet your hands again. After we have a firm piece of dough, we can take it out of the bowl and we tuck the sides underneath. This way we stretch the dough and we get a lot of tension on the outside surface. It will make the bread look much nicer later. It also prevents the dough from ripping unintentionally. As soon as you have a nice smooth surface, like we do now here, your dough is ready to go in the pan. I would recommend a non-stick pan, but if you don't have one, just flour the bottom of the pan. This way the dough won't stick to it. In the pan we press on top of the dough to stretch it to the side, because there is more space to prove to the side rather than up. Now we sprinkle a little bit of flour on top and spread it all over the dough. This way it would prevent the dough from sticking to the lid. Let's put a lid on so the dough won't dry out while we give it a rest for another hour. 1 hour later, this dough looks so smooth and silky, you can actually see some bubbles that formed under the skin of the dough. It looks already so good. I can't wait to have it baked. Let's get it on the stove and we bake it with medium heat for about 30 minutes. But after 20 minutes we have to flip it around and bake it that way for the remaining 10. Enjoy the pan cinema! After 30 minutes we can turn the stove off and we take the bread out of the pan. And the bread looks so good, nice and golden brown, just yummy. Let's do the knock test and see if the bread is finished. It sounds really hollow and crispy. I would say this bread is done. After letting the bread cool down for a little bit, it's ready to cut. And that sounds so delicious. Just imagine a little bit of butter melting now on this bread. The graining looks really nice, some smaller and bigger holes spread all over the bread. And take a look at the bounce of the bread, how it jumps back right after pressing it strongly together. That is a sign of good quality bread. So job well done. Now enjoy rebaking this bread at home. If you have any questions or wishes, just drop it down in the comments below. And if you liked my video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed yet, consider hitting that subscribe button. See you in the next video.